So let us begin today's session. So in the last class, I was telling you about various concepts related to PHP, that is the fundamentals you need to know before starting to learn server-side scripting language. So we were discussing about front end and then back end and software called web server and a software package. We require MySQL also, right? So to instead of installing web server separately and MySQL separately, we have a complete server package, web server package along with database technology and everything. So we have seen about XAMPP, where X stands for cross-platform. I hope I told you about this one, right? Someone please respond. Apache web server. M stands for MySQL or MariaDB. One P stands for PHP, and another P stands for Perl programming. So this is the meaning of XAMPP. So once you install this XAMPP, so you'll find in C drive XAMPP folder, XAMPP. Okay. Then inside this XAMPP folder, you'll find htdocs. So open this htdocs, and here you need to create a folder. So you need to follow a folder structure, directory structure. So let me write this directory structure here, where to save PHP programs. So under this where to save programs, this is the place where you need to save your programs, right? So I'll mention here, for every PHP application means what? All PHP files, .php files, HTML files, CSS, and JavaScript, whatever it is. So all those files together related to one single project, single application, call this application, right? So for every PHP application, you must create a folder in below directory. Okay. So where you need to create a folder in C drive, you'll have XAMPP folder, and in XAMPP folder you'll have htdocs folder. So open this htdocs folder, and inside this htdocs folder, you need to create a folder for your application and save all the files, all the PHP files, all HTML files, everything in that folder. So for example, so if you look at this htdocs folder in my system, I have a folder called reg login. This is a folder. Okay. So here what I have stored is all the PHP files. dbconnect PHP file, home PHP file, index PHP file, logout PHP file, update profile, view profile. So all these are PHP files, and this one is a CSS file, and this is a text file which contains uh, the table and database information required for this application. So you need to create a database with its name as dbtest. Then you need to create a table called users inside this database. with the following fields: user ID, username, email, and password. Right? So this information I stored in this file. So this is a simple text document. We are not going to run this text document. It is simply text document. So if you forget sometime later what is the name of the database we created for this application, then if you open this text document, then you'll find the information related to the database and tables and all the table columns that we created in our application in the database. So these are the files stored. So I have created a folder called reglogin, register and login system. So this application is for creating a simple registration and login system. Okay. So in short, I have named that folder as reglogin. Okay. So if I want to open this file now, run this application, the first file that is going to be automatically executed is the index file. If at all, if your folder contains index.php or index.html file, when you open this application by using a web server, we cannot directly open this application using a browser by double clicking on this index file. You cannot open it, or you cannot right click on it and open with Firefox or open with Chrome. You cannot do that way. First, you need to open the browser window, and in the browser you need to type localhost, and then followed by that a colon symbol and the port number that is used for the web server. So our web server is the Apache web server. Okay, it is a Apache web server. So for that, during installation I have given the port number as 80. Okay, so this port number I need to give, and then followed by a slash symbol. And what is the folder name we created? reglogin, register and login, registration and login system. So this is the folder name. Till here I have to give and strike the enter key. Right, then if the web server is on, if the web server is on, then if it is already started on your system, then you will be able to open that index.php file. But because I didn't start the web server, Apache web server, so that is the reason why I'm getting a page cannot be found, site cannot be reached. But how to start the web server? Last week I told you, once you install XAMPP, you will get something called XAMPP control panel. You can add a shortcut for this XAMPP control panel on your desktop, or you can pin it to your taskbar. But if at all, if you don't have the taskbar icon, or on the desktop also if you don't have shortcut, then go to XAMPP folder on C drive, and at the bottom you will find XAMPP control application. The type of the file must be application. You just double click on this, then this XAMPP control will be opened. XAMPP control panel will be opened. So, or else you can also right click on it and create a shortcut on desktop. So wherever you want to create a shortcut, you can create a shortcut. If you want to pin it to uh, start menu, then you can also do that one, pin to start menu. So select option pin to start. Right? Then in the start bar, if you type XAMPP, then it will be open. Right? So in any way you can open this one. So now I will start the Apache web server. So the first one in this control panel, you are able to see Apache module. So beside that, there is a start button. Click on the start button. Then this Apache web server will start. And you'll also find the port numbers that are used by this Apache web server. It is using two port numbers, 80 and 443. 443 to communicate with the MySQL database, and 80 to communicate with the client. So client can communicate with the Apache web server using 80 port number, and 443 is a port number using which you can communicate. The web server will communicate with the MySQL. Right. Similarly, start MySQL also. If you are using database, then use MySQL. Then the MySQL port number is 3306. So like just like Apache has 80 port number, Even MySQL has a port number 3306. Okay. So these are the port numbers used by both these modules. So you just minimize this control panel and now you refresh this one, then you will get this index page. So did I mention the index.php file name here? I didn't mention index.php file, but automatically that index.php file will be opened here because the web servers are designed in such a way that whenever you type the localhost slash the folder name and then strike the enter key, automatically the web server will search for an index file, index.php or index.html. If it is a servlet, then index. If it is JSP, index.jsp. That way you'll have index file. So automatically that index file will be opened by any web server. So you need not mention its file name. But if it is any other file name, then you need to mention its file name along with its extension. So in our reglogin folder, if you look at the file names, how many files are there? Home, index, logout, register, view profile, all these things are there. To open register.php, then I have to click, I have to select register.php and then type the enter key, then I'll get the registration page. So I have to enter the username, email and password and click on sign me up, right? If I click on sign in, then I'll get index.php. So the previous page that we were here, even if you don't use this index.php also, you will come to the same page. Even if you use index.php also, you will come to the same page. It's because by default your web server will open the index.php file because this is the page from where the user of this application can navigate to other pages. Okay, so here if you are a existing user, you'll directly type your email and password and sign in with your email and password. If you are a new user, then you can click on sign up here and then you'll get into register.php file. Then you can give a username for you and email ID and then password and click on sign me up. Then you will be registered successfully. Once you get registered, then you can click on sign in and then enter the email ID that you gave during registration and the password that you gave during registration and click on sign in button, right? So why this login page will be open first? Any user will have to register first without directly going to login page. He has to register first. So you must get it out that the register.php file must be the home page. That means it must be the index.php file. But how many times the register.php file will be accessed by the user? Only one time, right? After registration, after he successfully gets registered, he will no longer use this register.php file. He'll be using index.php file to log in. So after using for some time, he'll log out and again later he wants to use again, then again he'll log in. So each time he wants to log into the application, he'll be using mostly index.php file, that is login page, right? So that's the reason why the index.php or any application, you take any application, not just this application, the index.php file will be a login page at all if that application has a registration and login system. If it does not have any registration and login system, then everybody can use go through navigate all the pages in that application. For example, our college website, right? So when you open the vjit.ac.in, the index page will be automatically opened. There you don't find any login system. Directly you can navigate through all the pages in that application because it is open for everyone. Everyone can access that information and view that information. But some applications like Facebook, Gmail, Amazon and all these things, if you want to perform any activity on them, you must be a registered user. So they'll provide a login system and registration system. You have to register and then log into that application. So this is our application. So let me show you now. Let us keep this application apart. Just for your understanding sake, I opened this application, but we'll come back to this application after knowing the fundamentals of PHP programming. After learning all the fundamentals of PHP programming, then we'll come back to this application later, right? So for now, let us keep this aside and let me tell you about why this local host. I'll simply type localhost without 80. So even if I type 80 also, that 80 will not appear here because 80 is the default port number for the Apache web server. Even if you don't use it also, nothing will happen. But during installation, if you have given the new or a separate or a different port number instead of 80, you have given 90, then in that case I have to type the port number also like this. Okay. So when I type only the local host and the port number, I'll be redirected to this dashboard. Okay. See, after striking the enter key, that port number 80 has been vanished. Why? Because 80 is the port number which is default. You need not mention it. But during installation of XAMPP, if you have given a different port number, then you need to definitely mention that port number, whatever you have given. It is up to you what number you are going to give. But the default value is 80. So that is the reason why uh, 80 will be vanishing after you strike the enter key in the address bar. So once this dashboard is open, if, on the top right corner you'll find PHP My Admin. So click on this PHP My Admin, then it will take you to the MySQL dashboard, the database dashboard. So this is where you can create your MySQL database, and under the database you can create any tables and insert data into those tables. So on the left side, whatever you are finding, these are all database names. So what was our database name that I mentioned here? Database name is dbtest, right? So if you observe, you'll find the database dbtest. And in this dbtest database, I'm going to use a table called users. So that means what? Under this dbtest, I must find the table name users. So if you click on the plus button here beside that database, then it will show you. Or if you click on this dbtest, it will show you what are the uh, tables available in your database. Okay, but I didn't create this db test for this application purpose in my system. Instead, I used a different database. I used a different database. See, there is a database called registration. So this database I have used. So under this registration database, I have a table called users. Okay, so this is the database I will using. So don't think that I'm creating a database called dbtest. Instead of dbtest, I'm creating a database called registration, and under registration, I'm using users. Right. So when you click on this registration database, it will list out all the tables that are there in your database. So these are the tables. Project is one table, sample is one table, test is another table, and users is another table. So if you click on those particular tables, say I'm clicking on users table. So now you can observe uh, this table contains 4 fields, namely user ID, username, email, and password. So this is what we mentioned here also. User ID, username, email, and password. These are the 4 fields that are there in the table, right? So under the fields, one record is inserted with user ID as 6, an integer value, and username as Tarakeshwar, and email as tarakeshwar@vjt.ac.in, and password is something, it is encrypted password. So you will not be able to see the password. If it is not encrypted, then the password will be visible here, right? But for security reason, what we are doing is we are using a encryption algorithm to encrypt the password so that nobody will be able to see the password in the database. So this is the dashboard for MySQL database. So let us leave this one also aside because we'll be accessing database later, and I'll give you some introduction about this database also because most of you have not learned DBMS as your previous subject as a prerequisite for this one. So I need to give a little introduction about the database management system and then uh, start explaining you all these applications. So let us put all this thing also. But I need to tell you how to use a data, where to use a database, where to create a database, and how to run an application at the beginning. So that's the reason why I'm telling you all this. And coming back to the local host, why we need to type local host? So what is this? What is the meaning of this local host? Generally, when we create a web application, We host a web application on a server. Host a web application on a server. Right? A server is nothing but it's a hardware entity, a computer device, but with a very huge capacity, with very huge configuration. Right? Sometimes these servers are maintained by the application owners themselves. Large enterprises like Facebook, Gmail, Amazon, Flipkart, all these things, all these organizations, they'll maintain their own server. But some personal web applications which are run on the cloud platform or any other worldwide web platform, they'll be maintained by some third party vendors, and we need to purchase only some space, because for a simple and small organization, purchasing a server with a very huge capacity will be a very expensive thing. So instead of purchasing a server, you can purchase a small amount of space, uh, and you can pay for that annually, yearly. So in that way, you'll have a server, and this server will have a unique IP address. Right? A server will have a IP address which is unique. So that means what? In the entire world, this IP address will be unique. No other system will have the same IP address, right? So the IP address will be like, for example, it will be like this: 192.168.0.1, like this. The IP address will be there. So if you have to remember this IP address, it will be difficult, and even mentioning or conveying everybody publicly about the IP address number is not the secured way, because the hackers, if they know the IP address, they will be simply hacking this server. So to avoid that, what we can do is we can convert this IP address into a uh, what we can do is we can convert IP address to a text format, right? And this text format address is nothing but domain name, right? So for example, the domain names will be like this. For example, you have Amazon website, www.amazon.in. So this is a domain. So behind this domain, you will have some IP address like this, which is in numerical digits. Instead of using this numerical IP address for this Amazon, this numerical IP address will be mapped with into a text format address called like this one. This is called as a domain. And we have some system called domain name system, DNS. It stands for domain name system. So using this domain name system, what we'll do is we'll map this IP address, which is in numerical format, into textual format like this one. And this is called as a domain name. So yeah, it is easy for everyone to remember the domain name, because the domain name will reflect the name of the organization. So you'll have a www, which is common, which stands for World Wide Web, and then Amazon is the name of the organization. .in is nothing but it indicates that this Amazon URL or domain or IP address belongs to which country? India. Amazon.in. So sometimes instead of using IN, you'll have US. US stands for United States, right? CA for Canada. Like this, UK for United Kingdom, that is England. In that way, you'll have different extensions. And even in Indian organizations, for example, our college website is there. vjt.ac.in will be there. AC stands for Academic Institution. And where is it located? In India. So ac.in. Sometimes you'll have .gov or .org. .gov means it is a government website, right? So .gov.in means Indian government website. So in that way, you'll have domain names, and these domain names will be unique. No other organization will have the same domain name. Just like IP address is unique, even this domain name must also be unique, right? So as a developer, we cannot create a domain and host our application. Host means what? We have to store or all your web application files, all the PHP files or all the servlet files or JSP files on the server computer, right? Hosting is nothing but, what do you mean by hosting? Hosting is nothing but load all your PHP files, all the web application files into a computer server, and that IP address will be there. Using that IP address, you can access that server. So this is what we do normally, right? But as a learner, as a student, and as a developer, you cannot directly host your application on the server and start developing it. First, we'll develop it on the local system and then host that application on a real-time server. So for during development process, what we'll do is we'll develop it on a local server, and to refer to a local server, the default name used is localhost. Because we don't have this domain or IP address for the server, we will be creating a local server on our computer itself. Our computer will itself act as a local server as well as a client. So I'm accessing, as I told you, web applications are based on what kind of environment? They are based on client server environment. So the browser is nothing but where it is located. It is located on a client machine, and server, where is it located? It is located somewhere on a remote system. But during development of these applications, as a student, or as a learner, or as a developer, instead of having a remote server, you will create a local server on your computer itself where your client is located, and that local server can be referred with a domain name called localhost, and followed by that local host, you can use uh, the port number. So after localhost, give a colon symbol and give the port number. 80 is a default port number for Apache web server. So even if you don't give this 80 port number, it'll work. Simply if I give localhost also, it'll work. I'll remove the port number. I'll not give a port number, and simply I'll type localhost and type. So the same place I'll come to here. I'll be coming to the same dashboard here, right? Because 80 is the default port number. So now I hope everyone understood what is the purpose of why we need to write this localhost. Because we don't have a exclusive server for us, because we are developers, we are learners. So instead of having a exclusive server which is very expensive as a learner for you, we'll be using a local server. So we need to create a local server on our computer itself. So to create that local server, we have XAMPP. We have installed XAMPP. So by installing XAMPP, what you're doing is nothing but you're creating a local server instead of a remote server, right? And how to refer to that local server means with the domain name called localhost and followed by a colon symbol, the port number. If you are using a default port number, you need not mention that port number. If you are using another port number other than 80 port number, if you are using any other port number, then you need to mention it. After colon symbol, you have to mention that port number. Then only you will be able to access the server, right? So this is about web server and why this local host URL must be used to start your application and all. Without using this local host, if you simply type the URL of the application, and if you don't start this web server here, Apache web server, your application will not run like the previous programs that how you have run the HTML programs. By simply double clicking on those files, they'll be opened in your default browser on your computer. But that is not the case with these applications because we require a web server to run them, right? Fine. So now let us get into the actual PHP concepts. It is time for us to PHP. So I'll tell you how to create a PHP file. Right? Introduction to PHP programming. So PHP file can be created by, I'll just create a sample folder for you. I'll show you. So where to create the folder? As I told you, we need to create the folder in this directory, C exam htdocs. So I'm already into that folder htdocs. So here I'm going to create a folder called a new folder. Any name you can give to that folder. I'm giving, say, web design as a folder. So now open this web design folder, and here you can place all your PHP files. So let me open a new file, create a new file, and store this as index.php. So how to save it? Give a name called index.php. Select all files. Where to store this? C drive, you'll have XAMPP folder, and in XAMPP you have htdocs folder. And in htdocs we have created a folder called web design. So in this web design folder I'm going to save my index.php file. So let us see. Yes, index.php file is created, but it is empty, right? So now how to run this index.php file on our computer, on our browser? Just type the local host and forward and give a forward slash. And what is the folder we created? Web design. Okay, and strike the enter key. A blank page will be open because in that file we didn't create anything, right? So now to write a PHP script, this file, how to write a PHP script? We have created earlier a JavaScript, right? The client side scripting language JavaScript. You can write a HTML code like this PHP file, as you do in normal HTML files. You can use a head, you can use a title tag as well. Just like normal HTML page, you can write all the HTML tags here also. So I'll display the title as my first PHP web page. So now if I refresh this page, so look at the title bar. On the title bar, you will get this my first PHP web page, right? Then you can also have the body tag, usual. Now within this body tag, if you want to write a JavaScript code, how did you write the JavaScript code? You created a script tag like this, open the script tag, and close the script tag. And in between the script tag, you were writing the JavaScript code. But when you want to write a PHP script, instead of the script tag, you need to use something else. Open this angular bracket, give a question mark, PHP, and at the end, use a question mark and close the angular bracket. And in between this, here, you can write any PHP code using PHP language. So as of now, you don't know PHP language. You don't know how to write a single statement of a PHP language, right? So let us begin with a simple hello world or hello welcome message or something, just like you do it in any programming language. The first program that you'll write is a hello world program, right? So if you want to display something on the browser's window, just like in JavaScript, you have document.write function. Even in PHP, we have a function called echo function, right? So this echo function, without using any parentheses, directly whatever message you want to display on the screen, display. So hello world. So this displayed here on the screen. Hello world, right? So this is simply to test the PHP application. So if you want to write a PHP code in your program, your HTML page, wherever you want to write the PHP code within the body section, then open this angular bracket and question mark without any gap, write the PHP, and then at the end, after the last line of PHP code is completed, or close the question mark and angular bracket. And in between these two, you can write any number of lines of PHP code. So all that which is enclosed between these tags will be considered as PHP code by your browser, right? So if you write anything outside here, then it will generate an error, or it will be directly displayed as a uh, text as part of your HTML code. Right? So if I write this echo hello world outside this tag here, what is going to happen? By default, this will be considered as a paragraph. So display what? Echo hello world and semicolon exactly as it is. You're able to see because this will be considered as a paragraph text in HTML. So that will be displayed as it is. But the echo statement that I put inside the PHP tags is displaying only the hello world message. Why? Because anything written in between these tags will be considered as PHP script. Anything which is written outside the PHP script, PHP tags will be considered only as pure text or paragraph text. So let us not write the PHP code outside this. And after writing a small PHP script, later you want to uh, do some HTML tags. Say I want to use a HTML tag here, HTML heading. Write a heading, then lower, then this is a PHP page. And again, you want to write some PHP code. You can write PHP code later after this heading. Welcome to the world of PHP programming. So in that way, you can write partial PHP code, and after closing that PHP tag, again you can write HTML code, and then again you can start PHP code. But wherever you use that PHP code, in whichever location in your web page you use, you must enclose that PHP code within this PHP tag. These are called as PHP tags. Okay, so this is how you can write a PHP code. Don't worry about the echo statement. I will tell you about the echo statement one after the other. So you need not worry about this one. So this is how you create a PHP file. Even though you have HTML code here, and also along with that you have PHP code, it doesn't mean that you need to save this file as .html. At least one line of PHP code is there in your HTML page, then you must definitely store this file as a .php file. If you don't store this as .php file, if you store it as something else, say for example, uh, I'll now save this same file into something else, php.html, save it as a .html file. So how to open this file now? Web design, uh, php.html. So this is the file we created. So when you open this one, what is displayed? Only this is a PHP page is displayed. So where did we write that this is a PHP page? H3 head. This echo hello world and this echo welcome to the world of PHP programming is not displayed. Why? Because this is stored as a HTML page. So that HTML page, this code will be ignored. The PHP code will be ignored. It will not be considered by your browser. So at least if there is one line of PHP code in your HTML file, then instead of saving it as a HTML file, you have to save it as a .php file. Only when you save that file as a .php page, then only PHP script will be recognized by your browser. Otherwise, it will not be recognized. Okay. So let me close this. So let us get back to uh, the PHP programming introduction. What is this PHP and what is the acronym PHP stands for? PHP stands for PHP Hypertext Preprocessor. So that means what? In PHP, first P stands for PHP, and then HP stands for Hypertext Preprocessor, right? So such an acronym, which has again the same acronym in itself again as abbreviation. This is such an acronym is called as recursive acronym. So why PHP is called as a recursive acronym means PHP, the first letter P again stands for the actual acronym PHP, right? So that is the reason why we call this as a recursive acronym. And what is the abbreviation of a PHP means PHP hypertext preprocessor, or simply you can also say hypertext preprocessor. Okay, fine. Then what is this PHP? We know about the abbreviation and all, but what is this PHP? Basically, it is a server-side scripting language. So as I told you earlier, long back, scripting languages are of two types: client-side scripting and server-side scripting languages. PHP is an example for a server-side scripting language. Then it is a powerful tool for making dynamic and interactive web pages. So I told you about static web pages and dynamic web pages, right? So using PHP, we can create a dynamic web pages, and we can make the web pages also interactive, just like we have made them interactive using JavaScript. Then PHP scripts are executed on the server, unlike the JavaScript. Where is the JavaScript executed? It is executed on the browser, client browser. But whereas PHP scripts, where are they executed? They are executed on the server machine. So that is the difference between JavaScript and PHP. And that is the reason why for executing a JavaScript program, we didn't require any additional software except the browser. But to execute a PHP program along with the browser, we require a web server. That is the Apache web server that we are using, right? Because the PHP scripts will be executed only on the server, not on the client machine. Then how will the client get the output means? Server will execute the PHP script on the server and then send that output to the client browser. Then the browser will display that output. Okay. So PHP files, what they can contain means it can contain text, HTML, CSS, everything. Along with this PHP code, you can also have HTML code, CSS code, and JavaScript code also. Let me put it here. So here, if you want to write a JavaScript code, you can write JavaScript here by using a script tag. Even though this file is saved as .php file, you can write JavaScript as well here. And if you want to create a style, internal style, you can create a style tag and create a CSS file also here. Okay. So here you can create style CSS, and here you can create JavaScript. Everything is possible, right? So your PHP file can contain simple text or HTML code, CSS code, JavaScript code, and PHP code. So by saving this file as .php file, it is not restricting you to only allow you to write the PHP code. It will allow you to write all these codes, simple text, HTML code, CSS code, JavaScript code also you will be allowed to do. Even without this HTML code, you can directly write the PHP code also. Let me show it here. Now I'll remove all this head, body, all these sections, right? Remove all these things. I'll write only PHP code. Now also your program will work without any issue. Okay. Sorry. Let a change in index.php. Then so index.php, right? Right. Hello world, welcome to the world of PHP. So in this echo statement, you can use a break statement, just like you used in document.write function in JavaScript. You can use a break tag here. We'll take the cursor to the next line so that the next welcome to the world of PHP programming will be displayed in the next line, right? So this is about PHP, PHP code is executed on the server and the result is returned to the browser as plain HTML. How to save the PHP files with an extension .php. Then what can PHP do? It can generate dynamic page content. Dynamic means what? As and when the user performs some action on the page will respond with some reaction. So such pages are called as dynamic pages. Then secondly, it can create, open, read, write, delete, and close files on the server. So on a remote server, you can create files, you can edit files, you can open files, you can read files, you can delete files, and you can close files also. So all the file operations that you can do on your local system, they can be done even on the server also. For example, you are asked to upload a photo when you are applying for some online application, for a GATE application, for example. You are applying for a GATE exam. Then you are supposed to enter your all your personal profile details, uh, and which branch you belong to. All this information you will upload, right? Along with that, you will upload some information related to your academics also. So there you will be asked to upload your photo with some specific size, upload your 10th intermediate documents or something. So what you will be doing, you are uploading your document means what? A file will be created on the server, some folder on the server, exclusively for you, and in that folder, all your files, all your documents that you have uploaded, all the files that you have uploaded will be stored there. So that means what? You are creating a file on the server, and you can later open that file and edit it, read the content from the file, and write some new content into the file. You can delete that file also, and close the file also after performing some operations. So you can do all these things using PHP. Then PHP can collect form data. So in DHTML, we have seen how to collect data from form. And even when we were using the regular expressions also for validation, when we entered the username, email, password, all these things, then validated our application, the registration page, by collecting the form data entered by the user and comparing them with the regular expression patterns of email, username, password, mobile number, all these things, right? So what you're doing there is you're collecting the data from the form. The JavaScript is collecting data from the HTML form, right? Similarly, PHP also can collect the data from the HTML form and perform operations on the data, like it may be inserting it into the table of a database, or it perform some arithmetic or logical operations on the data, manipulate the data, and then give the resulting data back to you. So that way, it can collect the form data and perform some operation. That is the third purpose what PHP can do. Then PHP can also send and receive cookies. So cookies you must have heard when you're using a browser. Sometimes you'll be getting some notification about cookies. This application uses cookies. It will ask you for your consent. And if you click on agree, then the cookies will be added to your system. Cookie is a small piece of information that will be storing some usernames, password information locally in your browser instead of storing them on the server. So we'll deal with this cookies and sessions also in this PHP program. So don't worry about that. So your PHP program can receive and send cookies. Then it can add, delete, modify data in your database. So it can perform interaction with the database by adding some data to the database, or deleting an existing data from the database, or modify the existing data in the database. So all these things can be done with the database using PHP. Then PHP can be used to control user access. Means what? In the previous, when I opened the application for you, the application, what is that? Registration and login application. So it is asking me to enter my email ID and password and sign in. If I don't enter my email ID and password, will I be able to access the content of this application? Only when I log into this account, then my username is displayed here. Hello Tarakeshwar, and then a sign out button to sign out from this. Then an update profile link is provided. When I click on that update profile, I'll get this profile where I need to enter name, roll number, date of birth, gender, father's name, mobile, all these things. Click on update button, then this will be stored into the database, right? So I can go back to the home page, click on view profile. Because I didn't update it, it will show me profile not updated. Then you can log out by clicking on the sign out button. Log out, you'll come back to this login page. And when you click on back button, you'll not go back to the previous page. Or if you click on front button also, you'll not go to the other page. So this will happen only when you use sessions. If you're not using sessions in PHP or any other scripting language, then even though you logged out of your application, when you click on the back button, it will go to your home page of your account. So that is a security issue. So to provide security to your application, we have something called session management. So we'll see that concept also there. So what I'm doing by creating a login system is by I'm controlling the user access. Who can access my application? The registered users can access my application. Nobody else can access. So if I'm a registered user, I'll have a username and password. I need to enter my username and password and then sign in, and then I can access my application. Otherwise, I'll not be able to access. So that is the meaning of PHP can be used to control user access, right? So only the account holders will be allowed to access the application. Non-account holders will not be allowed to access the application. Then the last one is PHP can encrypt data. So I just showed you before the password is encrypted. You are unable to see what my password is, right? So even while typing also it will not be visible, right? So if I don't use this encryption, the password will be visible in the database. Whatever I entered my password during registration, that will be visible in the database table. Earlier when I showed you that the password was not visible, right? So that is the meaning of encryption. So this is what PHP can do. And syntax for PHP, basic syntax is this one. Already I told you about this one. Open the angular bracket, PHP, close the question mark and angular bracket, and in between that you can write PHP code. And you can place your PHP code anywhere in the document, right? But whenever you want to write a PHP code, you have to use this PHP tag. Okay, PHP code starts from this and ends with this. And a PHP file normally contains HTML tags and some PHP scripting code. As this also we discussed earlier. This is an example. You can use this HTML body tag and display a heading and then write a PHP code like this. And remember, every PHP statement will end with a semicolon, just like it happens in JavaScript, C, and Java. And how to write comments in your PHP program? It is similar to C and Java or JavaScript. Use two forward slashes to write a single line comment. To write multi-line comments, you can use this forward slash asterisk. The last line you will use asterisk and forward slash. And for a single line comment, you can also use hash instead of double forward slashes. You can use a hash symbol. So this is the symbol. This is the symbol we use for comments in Python programming. Just like in Python programming, even in PHP, it will allow you to use hash symbol instead of two forward slashes. Right? Then case sensitivity about this PHP programming. So in any programming language, you'll have keywords and then names given to some variables or arrays or functions, objects, classes, all these things. Everything will be referred with a name, right? So two things you'll have. First thing is keywords, right? Every programming language has some set of keywords. Shweta, Amma. So every programming language will have some keywords. So all the keywords in PHP, uh, they are used, and even the classes and functions. You will have classes and functions even in PHP. We'll get back to this PHP concept later, class and functions. These are not case sensitive. For example, if statement, else statement, while statement, echo statement, these are all keywords. So when you are using these keywords, you can use either uppercase letters or lowercase letters because they are not case sensitive. But coming to the names of the variables, when you are declaring the name of a variable in small letters or lowercase letter, in the entire program, you have to use the variable name in the lowercase letter. You cannot use a uppercase letter, right? So variable names are case sensitive, whereas keywords are case insensitive. PHP keywords are insensitive. That means case not case sensitive. They are not case sensitive. And variable names, array names, and user defined function names, all these are case sensitive. Then how to declare variables in PHP? So I'll take up to creation of variables for today's class and then continue in tomorrow's class, right? So because we are running out of time. So to declare a variable, every variable, we don't require any keywords like in C, Java, and even in JavaScript. For all the data types of the variables, we used a single keyword called var. var, var keyword, right? So JavaScript is an example of loosely typed programming language. Means what? The data type is not that much important. You need not mention the data type of a variable when you declare it, right? See, so even in the PHP, but if it is in Java and C exclusively, if your variable is storing integer data, you need to declare it as int. If it is floating point, you have to declare it as float. Like this, you have to declare. That is not mandatory in JavaScript. Coming to PHP also, it is not mandatory. It is not required at all, right? So you need not use any keywords like var, int, float, all these things. Directly, when you create a variable, you precede that variable with dollar sign. So all the variable names will have a dollar sign before that variable name. So here, if you look at this program, the variable name is txt, but it is preceding with a dollar sign. And what value I am assigning? A string, hello world string. Automatically, this variable's data type will become string. And in the next line, I created a variable called x, and this is preceding with a dollar sign, and I have assigned a value 5, integer value 5. Then automatically the data type of this variable x will become integer. And similarly, when I use y variable, I'm assigning 10.5, and automatically the data type of this y variable will become floating point. So to store any value in a variable, you need not declare that variable first, right? So wherever you want to use that variable, directly use that variable name preceding it with a dollar sign. And if you are using that variable in multiple parts of your program, everywhere you use that variable, you have to precede that variable with a dollar sign compulsorily, right? So everywhere you use that variable, wherever you use that variable in your program, all that variables must be preceding with a dollar sign, right? And you need not mention the data type of the variable. Automatically, what value you will assign to that variable, the data type of that variable will become that one. Okay. So look at the note mentioned here. When you assign a text value to a variable, put quotes around the value. So that means string value. Text is nothing but string. So if you are assigning a string value to a variable, put double quotes surrounding it. Unlike other programming languages, PHP has no command for declaring a variable. Like in C and Java, to declare an integer variable, I'll have a command called int keyword, then followed by variable name, ending with a semicolon. But PHP does not have such keywords and commands here to declare a variable. It is created the moment you first assign a value to it. The first time you assign a value to that variable, automatically then itself dynamically the variable will be created. You need not write an exclusive declaration statement like you do it in C and Java, right? So this is how you create variables in PHP. And you need to follow some rules when creating variables in PHP. A variable will always start with a dollar sign, I already mentioned, followed by the name of the variable. A variable name must start with a letter or the underscore character. You cannot use a digit. It has to start with an alphabet letter from A to Z, any case, and or you can also use at the beginning underscore. And a variable name cannot start with a number. A variable name can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscore. That means A to Z uppercase and lowercase letters can be there in your variable name. 0 to 9 digits can be there, and underscore symbol can be there. No other symbols can be used in your name of your variable. And variable names are case sensitive. That means if you first time when you started using a variable called age, like this in small letters. Later, somewhere in some other part of your program, if you try to write it in capital letters, they'll not be considered as same. They'll be considered as different variables. This is another variable and this is another variable. So that is the meaning of this case sensitive. Okay. And PHP is a loosely typed language. Loosely typed in the sense you need not mention the data type of that variable when you're creating it. It can hold any kind of value. So at the beginning, if it is holding a string value, later you may assign an integer value, automatically the data type of the variable will change. So such programming languages which allow you to store any kind of value in a particular variable, they are called as loosely typed programming languages. Right? So we'll stop here and we'll continue with the next class. All of you please text your roll numbers if you have not texted your roll numbers, and then